In this video, you're going to see me roast and fix some of my subscribers' Framer websites, and this is going to be a really well-packed video, so make sure to stick around until the end. I'm going to be literally going into each of these project files and showing how some of the most common mistakes can be fixed right on the canvas. My name is Nandi, this is Framer University, and let's get started. So the first site that we're going to take a look at is the Glorify website. By the way, all of these links will be in the description, so you can check out all the sites. So this first site looks really good. Most sites that I'm going to review here look really good. I just picked a couple of small things that could be fixed. And here on the site, if I look on the mobile view, you're going to see that this mobile navigation, if I open it down, we see this button moving a bit weirdly, it's just filling up the available width, but I don't know why is this animated. It looks like a mistake, and it is probably a mistake because everything else just instantly appears when we open this, but the button is just animated in. So we're going to take a look at the project file and see how something like this can be fixed, because I already know what is probably the issue here. So here we are in this Framer project. I'm going to find and locate the navbar in the layers panel, and I'm going to go ahead and right click edit. And let's take a look at what different variants we have. So as you can see, we have all these desktop variants. We're not going to deal with those now. We actually need these phone variants. As you can see, the two main states that we are analyzing here is the phone and the phone open. So we can preview it here as well. If we open it, it goes to the phone open, and then if we close it, it goes to the regular phone variant. The reason why it is a bit hard to catch these errors here on the canvas is because you can see that this phone variant is set up in a way that we cannot really see the get started button within this frame right here, because it's hidden, because it doesn't have the heights so that it could be visible. So that's why sometimes these little issues occur, because what happens here is that this button probably has a different size on the phone variant here, and when we go from phone to phone open, it is being animated from a smaller width, for example, to this fill width that we have right here, and that's why it is getting animated. So what we need to do in this case is we probably have to make this a little bit larger, and then try to make the phone wrap opacity 1 so we can actually see what is going on here. And yeah, we can actually see that they are not only smaller, but they are also flipped. So we can also flip them, so the guest start is on top and login is on the bottom. And then we can just set them to fill, and then this will also be fill, I think. And then we can set it back to opacity 0. And then we can also set this phone variant back to a little bit smaller size in height. And so now, in theory, it should be fixed perfectly. So I'm going to go back to the canvas and take a look at the phone breakpoint of this website. So let's see what happens if I click this. And yeah, as you can see, now these buttons are no longer animated in from the left, and they are just appearing nicely instantly as we click and open down this phone navigation. The next website is called Blitzit, and this also looks really good. If we scroll down a bit, we're gonna see this accordion section where we have these FAQ sections that we can open down. And it looks okay, but I think we can improve this a little bit. So first of all, what I really don't like about accordions, and I'm really this is one of my pet peeves, is that when I start clicking them really fast, and if I see this selection of text, I get a bit yeah, it's just not good in my opinion. So you just have to set user select to none on these interactive elements, because people are going to be clicking these, and it's just not great if text is getting selected. It's just weird. So that's the first thing. And then I'm going to also talk about some additional improvements that can be implemented into this accordion. For example, the animation timing. As you can see, as I open and close this, if you pay close attention, here these two will actually meet and they will intersect. So we can make it so that those are not touching each other. And also we can make sure that, for example, this answer text here that, appears and disappears, it fades in nicely and then fades out nicely. And now it is just appearing instantly, which is fine. You can have a decision that, yeah, I want to have it appear instantly, but I'm going to just show how you could, make it so that it fades out and fades in nicely as we open this down. So let's jump into the project and take a look at this accordion section. Here we have the FAQ component. We're going to click into that. And then within this, we have these like multiple instances of this FAQ component. We can click into that as well to edit that. So here we have variant 1 and variant 2, and these are basically just the helper state, and then on click we go to this open variant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first go to the primary variant, and then I'm going to select both of the texts, so these two, and then style and user select none. So this will basically mean that when I'm clicking this really fast, I just cannot select the text, which is already a much better experience. The next thing I want to show is the opacity thing, so that fade out, fade in. The way you're going to do that is you're going to not have visibility animated on these different variants, but the opacity. So now as you can see on the close variant, I'm going to just rename this to close, because it's actually the close and this is the open variant. So on the close variant, you're going to see that answer is just simply set to visible no. And it's also set to opacity 0, but actually it doesn't really matter what opacity it has, because if the visible is no, then we will basically not see anything. So if we are animating visibility, then what it means is that it either is visible or not. There's no in-between states. So if we want to animate a smooth fade in and fade out effect, we have to use opacity, because you're going to see that this opacity has all of these in-between states, and that's why it's going to be nice and animated. And when we use visible, it's just going to be either visible or not visible. So if we change the opacity here to 0, the visible is on yes. So technically it's on the page, it's just not visible. And then we're going to set the height instead of fit content to fixed, and we're going to change it to a little bit smaller size. And then here what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it is visible. Yes, we can also just override or reset this override, and then opacity is 1, and in theory it should be good. So let's take a look at this. Yes, if I hover over this, it looks really nice. And then yeah, in my opinion, it looks a bit better to like fade in and fade out this answer text below. So yeah, that's how you can do it. The next thing that I want to show is why these FAQ blocks are kind of like intersecting when I close them. So basically what happens here is that there are two components in place right here. The first component is this FAQ component, basically these individual FAQs accordions. This component has a transition on the right panel. So if I click primary variant, go to the right panel and click transition, I'm going to see the transition that is assigned to this. I can see that it has an ease in out transition, which is 0.3 seconds in time. Let's take a look at this other component, which is this FAQ like global component that houses all of the other FAQ instances. This also has a transition setting. Well, this transition is a sprint transition. If I switch it to time, I can see that it actually has the same time, 0.3 seconds. However, since it is a sprint transition, it's gonna be like a different curve, that the animation uses for the transition, and that's why they are not perfectly aligned. So if you want these two animations to perfectly align, we just have to make sure that both of them have the same transition. So let's just go with this spring transition and go within the FAQ accordion, and then go to transition, spring, time and then just use the same values that we had on the other component. And now if we just preview this, you're going to see that we're going to no longer see that intersecting. It is a bit faster as well, so I think that also looks really nice, that it's a bit more snappier. And yeah, the accordions, these blocks are not intersecting each other when we open and close these little components. And another tiny thing that I noticed on the side is that if I scroll down to the very bottom, I can see that the copyright information is a little bit outdated here, 2023. Well, I know that it can be, you know, a bit tricky to like know that, okay, I have 10 sites and I have to update this year every year on all my sites. It's just hard to stay on top of those things. So I just have a little resource for you for that. Framer.university is the website that you have to visit. And then basically if you go to resources and search for auto copyright, you're going to see this little resource. You can copy this component, and then if you go into your Framer project, you can simply comment on V here and it will be pasted onto your website. So I'll just try to paste it within this footer. So here this component will always show the current year, and you can just customize the name here. So Blitz It App Ltd. And you can just delete this one, and now you have a auto copyright component on your site that you don't have to update every single year. And yeah, I hope that this will be helpful. Studio Sender is the next site. I'm not sure about the pronunciation, but yeah, this is the next website. And here we also are going to be taking a look at this little mobile breakpoint. So if I take a look at this mobile variant here of the navigation, you're going to see that as I open it down, everything looks great. But as I start scrolling, I notice that I can scroll, and this is not a great experience. When we open down this navigation on mobile, I don't want to scroll. I just want to tap some of these menu items, but I don't want to scroll down. And as you can see, if I close this now, I'm on the bottom of the site. So how can we make sure that when we open this navigation on the mobile, we can no longer scroll? Well, I'm going to show you it right now. So let's take a look at this project. I'm going to again go within this navigation component, and we can see that it has different variants. We have the desktop variant, of course, and then we have these phone and phone open variants to optimize this component for the mobile breakpoint. And so here, I think some of these properties are not correctly set, but I think it should work nicely in the preview. Let me just quickly double check this, because it might be just showing a little bit. Yeah, it just shows up a bit weirdly here in the components view, but let's just ignore it for now. What we have to focus on here is how we can make sure that when this phone open variant is displayed on the screen, we can no longer scroll the website. Well, for this, I have a really useful component on Framer.university. So if you go and pull up your Google, you can search for Framer.university. You're going to land on this website. You're going to go to the resources page, and then here you're going to search for stop scroll. And you're going to find the scroll stopper component, and you can just copy it. So once we have copied this, we can go back to Framer, and I'm just going to comment and V here on the canvas and simply place it within this desktop. So I'm going to place it right here. I'm going to make sure that it's visible. We can set it to absolute positioning so it doesn't take up any space. It is basically like an invisible component. It doesn't, show up on the screen. You cannot see it, but it adds a certain functionality. It stops the scroll, and it has a property on the right panel. It either blocks the scroll or it doesn't. So of course, on the desktop variant, we're not going to have this block scroll on yes. It's going to be on no here. And then basically what happens is that I can go to the phone open variant, go to stop scroll, and here I can change this property to yes. So now when we are here on this phone breakpoint and we click this little menu button, we transition into the phone open variant, and the scroll stopper component also changed to block scroll yes. So now if I scroll, and it's not scrolling anymore. But if I press it again and I go back to the regular phone variant where the scroll stopper is set to no, I can still scroll. If I open this down, I can no longer scroll. So yeah, use the scroll stopper component from Frame University if you want to add this functionality to your navigation bar. So this next website is a personal website of Rihan Ahmed. Again, sorry if I'm pronouncing it weirdly. Some of the things I notice here is that a little bit of inconsistency in terms of this drop shadow on these icons or peels. So here you can see that it definitely has a drop shadow, but some of the icons, especially on these cards, you can see that the drop shadow is basically being cut off right here. So we're going to take a look at that within the project. And then I will also take a look at these cards, because what I don't really enjoy about this is that when we have this card in the center, we still see the pointer cursor, which I really hope that the screen recorder is recording perfectly. But if you don't see it, I'm going to tell you that I'm seeing my pointer cursor, which basically, shows me that, hey, this is an interactive element, but if I click, nothing happens. So what I would do is that I would have just a regular cursor here on the center testimonial, which is not interactive. And on the cards which are located here on the right and on the left, I would have the pointer cursor, indicating that yes, those are indeed interactive elements. And I think this is all. Maybe again, the user select on these text layers could be set to none. And also what I noticed is that when I hover over this book a call, the text is jumping a little bit, so we will also take a look at that. I'm not sure why is this happening. So yeah, let's go through these different things. So I'm going to jump into this Framer project, and let's first take a look at this right here, these drop shadows. So as you can see, this is a SVG. You probably copied it from Figma or something. And yeah, basically when you are copying icons from Figma, make sure that you are not having the drop shadow on the icon, because it's going to be just cut off like this. So make sure to have the icon without drop shadow, and then you can add the drop shadow here in Framer. And basically you did the same thing here. So you just had the icon for this inner element, and then the rest is built in Framer, where you could easily add the drop shadow. So I would highly encourage you to do that. So yeah, that's the first thing. The next thing is the testimonial car. So this is probably a component that we can click into. Okay, so since on some of these cards we want to have pointer cursor, and on some of the cards we want to have the regular cursor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go within these components, and here I'm going to just add a cursor here on the right panel. I'm going to set it to regular for now, and then I'm going to create a variable for this. So now we have a cursor variable, and we can go back to this component and just select, let's say the, what's the default? Yeah, this is default. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the ones on the side, because those need to be overridden to pointer cursor. And I'm just going to set them to pointer. And now in theory, the ones on the side will have pointer cursor, and the one on the center will have regular cursor. But what is happening is not exactly that, because the center card also has pointer cursor. So let's take a look at that, why that is happening. So it's clear that here, when we are in the first variant, it works nicely, but when we are in the second variant, it no longer works. Let's take a look at this. Oh, okay, so here it has not a pointer cursor, so I think I have to double check on each variant just to make sure that each card has the right cursor. Okay, so here the center one is the regular, and on the sides we have the pointer. And yeah, now I think we're gonna be good. On the center we don't have a pointer cursor, but on the sides we have the pointer cursor. Also, we can go into these cards and just select the text here, and just again add user select none, just to make sure that when we are clicking on these cards, the text is not getting selected accidentally. Okay, and I think the last thing I mentioned is the little book call hover effect here. So let's take a look at this component, what different variants it has. So if I hover, it actually doesn't have that effect here on variant 1. I think it has variant 1, which is basically like a larger variant of the button, and then this is the variant 2. I think this is what we see on the navigation bar, and here, as you can see, it has this slide jumping in text size. So let's see if there's a change in text size. So 13 here, and then on the hover it's 14. So yeah, probably that's the problem. Let's change it to 13 here on the hover as well. And yeah, basically that's it. Again, just small thing. Just make sure that that text size is nicely consistent across those different variants that are involved in the interaction. And now the text is no longer jumping when we hover over this button. So yeah, perfect. The next website is White X Space. If we scroll down again, I'm gonna be talking about the accordions. Just a small, improvement could be made here. Not, to be honest, not just one. It's a couple of improvements, because as you can see, if I open this down, the other accordions are jumping away instantly and not like moving away smoothly, which is, not great. And another thing I notice is that, again, I can select the text, and when I'm clicking here, and here and here and here and here, it's just not closing. I have to specifically click this little row here to open or close it, which is, I think, not the best experience. I would assume that this whole thing is clickable. So yeah, we're just gonna make it so that I can click anywhere and it will nicely go into the open and close variants. Here we are in the project, so let's scroll down here. First of all, I'm gonna go within the accordion component and select these text layers. Again, style, user select none, just to make sure that we cannot select the text. And then we can immediately see why the trigger area of the interaction is only here. It's because we have this stack here, and the interaction is actually connected from that stack. You can see that little arrow pointing to the close variant. If we click this interaction, you can see that it is happening on click, and we go to the close variant. So on click of this element, we move to close. We just want to change this. We want to remove this, and then just simply click this full primary variant, the complete thing, and just connect it from here. On click, the same thing, and then basically the same thing back. Yeah, actually the back one was correct, so it was coming from the main variant frame. So now if you take a look at this, I think it's gonna be working nicely. Yes, I can click anywhere and it goes to open and close states. Really good. Again, the text could be animated in nicely with a fade in effect if we are not hiding it with visible set to no. So we can also quickly do that. We can just come here to the close. We can select this text here, set it to visible yes. Opacity is, I'm not sure why I cannot see it. Opacity is 1 and visible is yes. Where is my text? Okay, I finally realized that the color is different. So let's just change the color to something. Yeah, okay, so the color is changing. Okay, so we cannot see, it's not changing, actually it's the same color. The background color of the accordion is changing, and that's why we can no longer see the text. That's fine. So now it is visible, but we cannot see it because of the background color. Let's just change the opacity to 0 here, and then go height, set it to fixed, make it a little bit smaller, and then here, instead of animating the visibility, it's going to be nicely set to visible yes and opacity 1. So now in theory, the answer will be nicely animated. And yeah, it is. The last thing that I want to improve is the other accordions moving away instantly. And also I think we can make this interaction a bit faster. So let's go here, change it to maybe 3 and 0.2. So that's going to be a faster transition here. It seems like that when we are clicking this, we have a faster transition here and the slower back. That's probably because here on the close, the transition is different. So let's just change it back to this. Make sure that we have the same transition on each of those variants. And now only this little icon is acting weird. Let me just see why that is happening. Maybe there's an override. Yeah. So if I select the stack, I can see that it has an override in transition. Maybe I can just set it to time 0.3 and 0.2. And let's take a look at here as well. It's the same. So now in theory, yeah, it will be pretty good. Of course, you can, if this is too fast for you, you can just make it a little bit, you know, slower, like 0.5, and it's gonna be great. But now, just to make sure that the other ones are not jumping away instantly, we're gonna wrap this into a frame, which is already wrapped. So these are wrapped in a frame, and we can turn that frame into a component. So I turned that into a component. Option Command K was the keyboard shortcut that I pressed down, and now here I don't really have to do anything. I just have to make sure that I match the transition settings as I did it in a previous example. And basically that's it, I guess. Now everything will be nice and animated. And by the way, the reason for this is because every single element what was I talking about? So yeah, it's because every single element that is involved in the interaction, in the animation, all of them need to be in the same component. The whole like animation scene needs to be wrapped in a component. And so now, as you can see, it works nicely. These accordions move away in an animated way and not instantly. Looks very good. Looks pretty nice. So now let's go into the next one, which is gonna be the last one. So let's just take a look at Web Builder's website. I think what I wanted to talk about here is the max width that we could apply on this website. As you can see, everything is just too wide. What we usually have on websites is like a content frame, and that content frame has like a max width, so nothing goes to the edge. Because when someone is visiting this on an ultra-wide monitor, it's gonna look a bit weird. So let's take a look at how we can do that. I'm going to jump into the frame project, and since this project is not structured correctly here whatsoever, we have to do it a bit differently. So basically I'm just gonna try to select these text layers and these different like layers and just apply the max width to that. So let's see if I can actually do that. I might speed up this part of the video. Okay, so I was able to select all of these related elements. So now I'm gonna go and set a consistent max width of like 1100 pixels maybe. And yeah, so now everything is like on the left, but let's just take a look at this. Yeah, so if we go full screen, we're gonna see that nothing is centered, but you know, that's the last thing that we have to do. We have to make sure that now that everything is having the same max width, we can just make sure that somehow these are centered. So I'm gonna go and try seeing what's the structure here. So yeah, I just have to change the alignment to the center. And yeah, we are just gonna have a much better experience visiting this website. Everything is gonna have a nice and consistent max width. And yeah, everything will be in the center. So let's take a look at this. Yeah, much better, much better. Great. Okay, pretty cool. And honestly, what I wanted to talk about here is this little component, this little pricing tier component. You know, there are some improvements that we could make into this component, but the problem is that I checked it and it is not really structured correctly. Because for example, I was like, maybe I just reorder these things here because maybe this should be at the top. I'm not sure. And I just went inside and I saw that basically everything is like absolutely positioned here. It's a little bit of a mess. It's normal, like every beginner does this. It's perfectly fine. So maybe here I'm not gonna go ahead and just rebuild this from scratch because it's gonna it would take a lot of time. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna just suggest a little resource for you. So if you go and check out my video, which is basically talking about the basics of Framer, it's gonna be in the description. You're gonna learn everything about like absolute positioning, relative positioning, and you're gonna learn why you have to use relative positioning with stacks to avoid things like this happening. Because when you're building something like this with absolute positioning, your layout will not be scalable, not be flexible. So for example, I'm here and I just want to place these buttons to the top and I just cannot do it. If this would be created with auto layout or not auto layout, it's called auto layout in Figma, it's called stacks in Framer. If it would be using stacks and relative positioning, I could just select this frame here, I could press the up arrow key and it would move to the top and the tiers would move to the bottom here, and they just, you know, they would just switch places. So that's why you really have to watch that video. It's gonna be in the description. So yeah, maybe that's a great next video that you can watch. And yeah, basically that's it for this video. I'm just gonna tell you that I have this Twitter account at LearnFramer. It's gonna be also in the description. You can follow me there because I always post when I'm, you know, doing these site reviews or site roastings. And so if you follow me there, you can maybe catch the next time and comment your site here and your site might be picked. So yeah, that's it for this video. Make sure to like this, comment if I should make another one, make another part, because I actually have quite a few sites here, so I could pick I could probably pick a couple of other ones. So yeah, let me know in the comments and make sure to like this video. Again, check out Framer.University for free resources, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.